Nora Bennett touched her phone screen once more, her fingers dancing across the glass with practiced ease as her screen reader announced the time. 11:45 at night. Derek was now 2 hours late. She sat on the cold stone bench near the Harbor Park fountain, listening to the water cascade behind her. The October wind carried the smell of salt from the nearby docks and the distant sound of ships groaning against their moorings. She pulled her burgundy cardigan tighter around her shoulders and wondered for the 100th time if she had made a terrible mistake. 6 months of messages. 6 months of late-night conversations where Derek Hayes had seemed like everything she had ever wanted. He worked as a photographer, he told her. He loved jazz music and old movies. He said her voice was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard, which always made her laugh because he had never actually heard it in person, only through voice messages. A couple walked past, their laughter sharp in the quiet night. Nora turned her face away, not wanting them to see the tears building behind her dark glasses. She had worn her nicest dress tonight, the emerald green one her mother said brought out the color of her eyes, not that it mattered. She had even bought flowers, white tulips, because Derek mentioned once that his mother loved them. The tulips sat wilted in her lap now, their stems bent from her nervous grip. Nora stood up, reaching for her white cane that leaned against the bench. She should go home. She should stop being foolish. But something kept her rooted there, hoping against logic that maybe Derek would still come. Maybe there was traffic. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he got lost. Maybe he just never intended to show up at all. That last thought hit harder than the others. Nora blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall here in this public place where anyone could see her being pathetic. Across the park, Tristan Cole loosened his silk tie and threw it onto the passenger seat of his car. He had driven 15 minutes away from the Meridian, the 5-star restaurant where his engagement dinner was still happening without him. Where Victoria Sterling was probably making excuses for his absence to their 100 guests, her perfect smile never wavering even as rage built behind her crystal blue eyes. He did not care anymore. Tristan had spent the entire evening watching Victoria plan their future like a military campaign. The wedding would be in June at her family's estate in the Hamptons. The guest list would include 5 senators, 3 judges, and the entire board of Cole Innovations. Their honeymoon would be 2 weeks in Santorini, scheduled precisely between quarterly earnings reports. She had not asked him what he wanted once. He parked near Harbor Park and got out, breathing in the night air like a drowning man finding surface. The park was nearly empty this late. Just a few scattered souls and the distant sound of the fountain. Tristan walked without direction, just needing to move, needing to be anywhere that was not that restaurant. That was when he heard someone crying. The sound was soft, muffled, like whoever it was did not want to be heard. Tristan stopped walking. He should keep going. Other people's problems were not his concern. He had enough of his own. But the crying continued, and something about it felt so genuinely broken that Tristan found himself moving toward it instead of away. He rounded a cluster of trees and saw her. A young woman sitting alone on a bench, her face turned down, shoulders shaking slightly. She wore a green dress and held a bouquet of flowers that had seen better days. A white cane rested against her leg. Tristan hesitated. He was not good at this sort of thing. Emotional situations made him uncomfortable. He dealt in logic, in code, in problems that had clear solutions. But before he could decide to leave, the woman lifted her face in his direction. "Derek," she called out, her voice thick with tears but also relief. "You came." Tristan froze. "What?" The woman stood quickly, grabbing her cane and moving toward him with surprising confidence despite her obvious blindness. "I thought you changed your mind. I thought I scared you away somehow." She reached him before he could process what was happening, her free hand finding his arm and gripping it like he might disappear if she let go. "I am sorry I doubted you," she continued, words tumbling out in a rush. "I know I can be too much sometimes. I know that being with someone who cannot see is complicated. But you showed up. You actually showed up. Tristan opened his mouth to correct her, to explain that she had the wrong person. But then she smiled, and it was the most genuine smile he had seen in years. Not calculated. Not practiced. Just pure, unfiltered relief and happiness. You are breathing hard, she said, tilting her head. Did you run here? Were you worried about being late? Tristan started, but she was already moving on. Your jacket feels expensive, she noted, her fingers briefly touching the fabric of his suit. And you smell like cologne, the kind that costs more than my rent probably. Derek, did you dress up for me? Tristan looked down at her hand on his arm, at her face turned toward him with such trust. He should tell her. He should explain that he was not Derek, that her boyfriend had apparently stood her up, that this was all a terrible mistake. These are for you, she said suddenly, holding out the bouquet of crushed tulips. I know it is silly to give flowers to a man, but you mentioned your mother liked them, and I just wanted you to have something to remember tonight. Tristan took the flowers automatically, their stems damp and broken in his hands. Thank you, he heard himself say, and the words felt like stepping off a cliff. Nora beamed. I knew you would like them. She paused, her expression turning shy. Can I touch your face? I want to know what you look like. Is that okay? She did not wait for an answer. Her hands came up, fingers tentatively finding his jaw, tracing the lines of his face with a gentleness that made Tristan's chest tighten. She explored his features slowly, carefully, as if committing each detail to memory. You have strong features, she murmured. A sharp jaw. Straight nose. You feel exactly how I imagined you would feel, Derek. And Tristan, the man who had built a billion-dollar company on precision and truth, said absolutely nothing to correct her. He just stood there in Harbor Park at midnight, holding wilted tulips, letting a complete stranger touch his face and call him by another man's name. Because for the first time in 10 years, someone was looking at him, really looking at him, and seeing something worth showing up for. Even if that someone could not actually see him at all. Shall we walk? Nora suggested, sliding her hand down to his elbow. I do not want to go home yet. I have been waiting for this moment for 6 months. I want it to last a little longer. Tristan knew he should end this now. He knew he should tell her the truth and walk away. He knew he was making a mistake that would only get bigger the longer he let it continue. Instead, he said, sure, let us walk. And they did, Nora talking softly about her day and how nervous she had been and how happy she was that he came. Tristan listened, saying little, letting her fill the silence with her warmth. Somewhere across town, Victoria Sterling was probably calling his phone for the 20th time. Somewhere in this same park, a man named Derek Hayes had broken a promise and left someone waiting. Somewhere in Tristan's chest, his carefully constructed life was beginning to crack. But right now, none of that seemed to matter as much as the woman holding his arm and smiling like the world had finally started making sense. Tristan sat in his penthouse office staring at his phone. 3 messages from Victoria. 12 missed calls. 1 text from his assistant asking if he was coming to the board meeting. And 1 new message from a number he had saved last night under a fake name. The message from Nora read, "Good morning, Derek. Last night was perfect. Thank you for being real." His finger hovered over the keyboard. He should tell her. He should explain everything right now before this went any further. But instead, he typed, "Want to meet for coffee today? Riverside Cafe at 2? Her reply came instantly, "I would love that. See you then." Tristan put down his phone and rubbed his face with both hands. What was he doing? He was engaged. He was lying to a woman who trusted him completely. He was pretending to be someone else. And yet, when he thought about seeing Nora again, his heart beat faster in a way it had not in years. Victoria's suspicion. Victoria Sterling stood in Tristan's office without knocking, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. She wore a white pantsuit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, and her blonde hair was pulled back in a perfect twist. "Where were you last night?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm. Tristan did not look up from his computer. "I needed air." "You needed air for 3 hours? You left me alone at our engagement dinner, Tristan. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was?" "I apologized already." "No," Victoria said, walking closer. "You sent a text that said something came up. That is not an apology. That is an excuse." Tristan finally met her eyes. "What do you want me to say, Victoria?" "I want you to tell me the truth." She leaned against his desk. "Is there someone else?" The question hung in the air between them. Tristan thought about Nora's smile, about the way she had touched his face with such gentleness, about how she had waited 2 hours for someone who never came and still found it in herself to be happy when she thought that person finally showed up. "No," he lied. "There is no one else." Victoria studied him for a long moment, then straightened up. "Good. Because the wedding is in 8 months, and I have already sent out save-the-date cards. Whatever crisis you are having, get over it." She left without waiting for a response, and Tristan sat there wondering when exactly his life had become a cage he could not escape. Riverside Cafe. Nora arrived at Riverside Cafe 10 minutes early, which was unusual for her. She normally got lost at least once before finding new places, but she had been too excited to be cautious. She found a table near the window where the afternoon sun felt warm on her face. When Tristan walked in, she somehow knew it was him. Maybe it was his footsteps, measured and deliberate. Maybe it was the way the air seemed to shift. Or maybe it was just that her heart started beating faster. "Derek," she called out softly. Tristan walked over and sat down across from her. "Hi, Lee." She smiled at the nickname. No one had called her Lee except her mother, but hearing it from him felt right somehow. A waiter came over and Nora ordered a cappuccino. Tristan ordered black coffee, which made Nora laugh. "Black coffee? Really? That is so serious. I bet you are the type who never puts sugar in anything." Tristan smiled despite himself. "Guilty." "Tell me something," Nora said, leaning forward. "What do you actually do at that design company? You never really explained." Tristan hesitated. The real Derek was supposedly a photographer who worked for a design firm. Tristan knew nothing about photography beyond the expensive camera that sat unused in his apartment. "Mostly digital work," he said vaguely. "A lot of editing. Technical stuff. It is not very interesting." "I bet it is more interesting than you think," Nora said. "I work in radio. I host a late-night show called Midnight Voices. People call in and tell stories, share problems, sometimes just talk because they are lonely. You would be surprised how many people just need someone to listen to them." Tristan found himself genuinely interested. "What kind of stories do they tell?" "All kinds." Nora stirred her cappuccino absently. "Last week, a man called because his wife had died 6 months ago and he still sets the table for 2 every night. Another woman called because she finally got the courage to leave her job and start her own business. Someone else called just to say that the moon looked beautiful and they wanted to share it with someone." Her voice was soft and full of warmth as she spoke, and Tristan realized she genuinely cared about these strangers who called her show. "That sounds incredible," he said. "It is," Nora agreed. "My mom always said I talk too much, so I figured I might as well get paid for it." She laughed. "Plus, being blind actually helps. People feel more comfortable sharing things when they know you are not judging them based on how they look. You are just a voice to them, and they are just a voice to you. It feels equal somehow." The moment things changed. They talked for 2 hours. Nora told him about growing up blind, about how she had learned to navigate the world through sound and touch and memory. She told him about her mother who raised her alone after her father left. She told him about her dreams of maybe writing a book someday, collecting all the stories people had shared with her. Tristan told her carefully edited versions of his own life. He said he liked building things, which was true. He said he sometimes felt trapped by expectations, which was also true. He left out the part about being a billionaire, about the company, about Victoria, about everything that made him Tristan Cole instead of Derek Hayes. "Can I ask you something personal?" Nora said suddenly. "Sure. Why did you almost not show up last night? You were 2 hours late. Were you having second thoughts about meeting me?" Tristan's throat tightened. He should tell her now. He should explain everything. "I got scared," he said instead, which was not entirely a lie. "I thought maybe you would be disappointed when you met me in person." Nora reached across the table, her hand searching until it found his. "Disappointed? Derek, you showed up. You walked with me. You let me touch your face. You took my silly flowers. You are here right now having coffee with me even though I cannot even see you properly. How could I possibly be disappointed?" Her hand was warm in his, and Tristan felt something break open inside his chest. "I am not who you think I am," he said quietly. Nora smiled. "None of us are exactly who people think we are. But we can choose who we want to become, right? The beginning of the end." They left the cafe as the sun started setting. Nora held his arm as they walked, and Tristan found himself telling her things he had never told anyone. About feeling suffocated. About building something successful and feeling empty anyway. About wondering if this was all there was to life. Nora listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she squeezed his arm gently. "Maybe you are living the wrong story," she said. "Maybe it is time to write a new one." That night, Tristan sat in his apartment and stared at Victoria's wedding planner on his coffee table. 8 months until he was supposed to marry a woman he did not love. 8 months until his life became permanent. His phone buzzed. Nora had sent a message, "Thank you for today. You make me believe in good things again." Tristan typed and deleted 5 different responses before finally settling on, "You do the same for me." He hit send and knew with absolute certainty that he was falling in love with a woman who did not even know his real name. And for the first time in his life, Tristan Cole had no idea how to fix the mess he had created. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of stolen moments and coffee dates and long walks through the city. 2 weeks of Tristan living 2 different lives. By day, he was Tristan Cole, attending meetings and avoiding Victoria's increasingly suspicious questions. By night, he was the man Nora thought was Derek Hayes, listening to her radio show and meeting her whenever he could. But the lie was eating him alive. It was a Thursday evening when Tristan made his decision. He sat in his car outside the radio station where Nora worked, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He had rehearsed what to say 100 times. Each version sounded worse than the last. "I am not Derek. I am sorry. I lied to you." How do you tell someone that everything they believed was false? How do you explain that you let them fall for a person who did not exist? His phone rang. "Victoria. We need to talk," she said without greeting. "Tonight. Your place. I am done with whatever game you are playing." Tristan closed his eyes. "Fine. 9 o'clock. He hung up and got out of the car. First, he needed to tell Nora the truth. Then he would deal with Victoria. Then he would figure out how to live with himself afterward. The radio station. Nora was finishing her show when Tristan arrived. He could hear her voice through the studio glass, warm and inviting as always. She was talking to a caller about second chances and new beginnings, and the irony was not lost on him. When she came out, she smiled in his direction. "Derek?" What are you doing here? I needed to see you, Tristan said. Can we talk? Somewhere private? Something in his voice made her pause. Is everything okay? No, he admitted. Nothing is okay. They went to a small park across from the station. It was dark now, and the streetlights cast long shadows across the empty benches. Nora sat down and turned her face toward him, waiting. Tristan sat beside her, the words stuck in his throat. Whatever it is, just tell me, Nora said softly. You are scaring me a little. My name is not Derek Hayes, Tristan said, and the words came out like broken glass. I am not a photographer. I do not work at a design company. Everything I told you was a lie. The silence that followed was the loudest thing Tristan had ever heard. What, Nora whispered, that night at Harbor Park, you were waiting for someone named Derek. He never showed up. I was just walking through the park and you mistook me for him. I should have corrected you immediately, but I did not. I let you believe I was him. I have been letting you believe it for 2 weeks. Nora stood up abruptly, her cane nearly falling to the ground. She caught it and took a step back from him. You let me, she started, her voice shaking. You let me think you were Derek this whole time? You listened to me talk about waiting for him? About being afraid he would not show up? And you just kept lying? Lee, please listen. Do not call me that, she said sharply. You do not get to call me that anymore. That was for Derek. That was for someone real. I know I messed up, Tristan said, standing. I know I should have told you immediately. But he struggled to find the right words. That first night, you looked so happy when you thought I had finally shown up. And then we started talking and I got to know you and I just could not find the right time to tell you. So you just kept lying? Nora's voice broke. For 2 weeks? Every coffee date? Every walk? Every conversation? All of it was just you pretending to be someone else? No, Tristan said desperately. Maybe I lied about my name, but everything else was real. The conversations were real. The way I feel about you is real. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? Tears were running down Nora's face now. I trusted you. I let you into my life. I told you things I have never told anyone. And you were just some stranger playing pretend? My name is Tristan Cole, he said. I own a tech company. I am engaged to someone I do not love. I left an engagement dinner that night because I could not breathe anymore. And then I met you and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. Nora shook her head. I do not even know who you are. You do know me, Tristan insisted. Maybe you do not know my name or my job, but you know me. The person I was with you, that was the real me. More real than I have been with anyone in my entire life. The real Derek appears. That was when they heard footsteps approaching. Both turned toward the sound. Nora? A man's voice called out. Nora Bennett? Nora froze. Derek? A man walked into the pool of streetlight. He was younger than Tristan, dressed casually, carrying a camera bag. He had the kind of easy smile that probably charmed a lot of people. Hey, sorry I am so late, Derek said casually. Like really late. 2 weeks late. My bad. I had this huge project come up and then my phone broke and honestly, I just kind of forgot about our date until tonight when I saw your number in my old messages. Tristan watched Nora's face carefully. She had gone completely still. You forgot, she repeated slowly. Yeah, man, it was crazy busy, Derek continued, seemingly oblivious to the tension. But I am here now. We can still grab that coffee if you want. Make up for lost time, right? He finally seemed to notice Tristan standing there. Oh, sorry dude. Am I interrupting something? Tristan said nothing. He just watched Nora, waiting to see what she would do. The choice. Nora stood between them. The man she had waited for and the man who had lied to her. For a long moment, she did not speak. Then she turned toward Derek. "You forgot about me," she said quietly. "For 2 weeks, you just forgot. You did not think to send a message or call or anything. You just forgot I was sitting there waiting for you." Derek shrugged. "I mean, life gets busy, you know. No hard feelings though, right?" Nora laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "No hard feelings. Right." She turned toward where she knew Tristan was standing. "You lied to me," she said. "You pretended to be someone else. You let me fall for a person who did not exist." "I know," Tristan said. "But Derek," she continued, "really did not show up. He really did forget about me. He really does not care." She took a breath. "You lied about your name. But you showed up. You stayed. You listened. You cared." "Lee," Tristan started. "My name is Nora," she interrupted. "Nora Bennett. I am 28 years old. I host a late-night radio show. I have been blind since birth. I hate dishonesty more than almost anything in the world. But I hate being treated like I do not matter even more." She turned back toward Derek. "Thank you for finally showing up. 2 weeks late. But I think I am going to pass on that coffee." Derek looked confused. "Seriously? After I came all this way?" "All this way," Nora repeated. "You mean the 10 blocks from your apartment that you have had 2 weeks to walk?" "Whatever," Derek muttered. "Your loss." He walked away, and Nora listened until his footsteps faded completely. Then she turned to Tristan. "The real beginning. I should hate you," she said. "I should tell you to leave and never talk to me again. I would understand if you did. But I do not," Nora continued. "I do not hate you. I am angry and hurt and I feel like an idiot for not figuring it out sooner. But I do not hate you." She took a step toward him. "You know what the worst part is? The worst part is that even knowing you lied, even knowing your name is not Derek, I still feel more connected to you than I ever did to the real Derek. How messed up is that?" "It is not messed up," Tristan said softly. "It is just the truth." "So what now?" Nora asked. "You go back to your fiancé and your company and your real life? And I just forget this ever happened? I do not want that." "What do you want, Tristan?" He stepped closer to her. "I want to tell you the truth about everything. I want you to know who I really am. And then I want the chance to start over. No more lies. No more pretending. Just us." "Just us," Nora repeated. She was quiet for a moment. "What is your last name?" "Your real one." "Cole. Tristan Cole." "And you own a tech company?" "Yes." "And you are engaged?" "Not for long," Tristan said. "That conversation is happening tonight." Nora reached out and he took her hand. "Why me? Why did you keep lying? You could have just walked away that first night." "Because when you touched my face and smiled," Tristan said, "it was the first time in 10 years that someone looked at me and saw something worth keeping. Even though you could not actually see me at all." Tears were falling down Nora's face again, but this time she was smiling too. "You are an idiot," she said. "I know. A lying, complicated, idiotic man. I know that too. And I am probably an even bigger idiot for this," Nora said. "But I want to give you that second chance. The real one. With the real you." Tristan pulled her into his arms and she let him, her face against his chest, his hand in her hair. "My real name is Nora," she said again, her voice muffled. "And I believe in second chances. Even for liars who show up to the wrong person's date. Tristan laughed, the sound shaky with relief. My real name is Tristan. And I promise to spend every day earning your trust back. They stood like that for a long time, two broken people holding each other together in a dark park, beginning the story they should have started from the beginning. The real one. 3 months later. Nora and Tristan sat on the same bench at Harbor Park where they had first met. But this time, there were no lies between them. Tristan had ended his engagement. Nora had introduced him on her radio show as her boyfriend, using his real name. They were building something genuine now, piece by piece. Do you regret it? Tristan asked. Giving me that second chance? Nora tilted her face toward him, the evening sun warm on her skin. Ask me that in 50 years. And Tristan Cole, who had once thought his life was already written, realized that the best stories are the ones you write together. The ones that start with the truth. The end.